Hare Krishna. So we were reading the 16th chapter, 16th verse, where Maharaj Parīkṣit starts. Hare Krishna, Swapna Mataji, Dhanavad.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yes, sir. Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhuji. Translation. Maharaja Parikshit heard that out of his flawless mercy, Lord Krishna, Vishnu, who is universally obeyed, rendered all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu by accepting
Ranging.
ranging from chariot driver to president to messenger, friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. But he heard this. Maharaja Parikshit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. Purport. Lord Krishna is everything to the unalloyed devotees like the Pandavas. The Lord was for them the supreme Lord, the spiritual master, the worshipable deity, the guide, the chariot driver, the friend, the servant, the messenger, and everything they could conceive of. And thus, the Lord also reciprocated the feelings of the Pandavas. Maharaja Parikshit, as a pure devotee of the Lord, could appreciate the Lord's transcendental reciprocation of the feelings of his devotees. And thus, he himself also was overwhelmed with the dealings of the Lord. Simply by appreciating the dealings of the Lord with his pure devotees, one can attain salvation. The Lord's dealings with his devotees appear to be ordinary human beings. Ordinary dealings, sorry. But one who knows them in truth becomes at once eligible to back home, back to Godhead. The Pandavas were so malleable to the will of the Lord that they could sacrifice any amount of energy for the service of Lord. And by such unalloyed determination, they could secure the Lord's mercy in any shape they desired. Hare Krishna.
17. Now you may hear from me of what happened while Maharaja Parīkṣit was passing his days, hearing of the good occupations of his forefathers and being absorbed in thought of them. Next 18. Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation. The personality of religious principles, Dharma, was wandering about in the form of a bull, and he met the personality of earth in the form of a cow who appeared to grieve like a mother who had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes, and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus, Dharma questioned the earth as follows. Purport. The bull is the emblem of the moral principle, and cow is the representative of the earth. When the bull and the cow are in joyful mood, it is to be understood that the people of the world are also in a joyful mood. The reason is that the bull helps production of grains in the agriculture field, and the cow delivers milk, the miracle of aggregate food values. The human society, therefore, maintains these two important animals very carefully so that they can wander everywhere in cheerfulness. But at the present moment, in this age of Kali, both the bull and the cow are now being slaughtered and eaten up as foodstuff by a class of men who do not know the Brahmanical culture. The bull and the cow can be protected for the good of all human society simply by the spreading of Brahmanical culture as the topmost perfection of all cultural affairs. By advancement of such culture, the morale of society is properly maintained, and so peace and prosperity are also attained without extraneous effort. When Brahminical culture deteriorates, the cow and the bull are mistreated, and the resultant actions are prominent by the following symptoms. Hare Krishna.
Next 19. Hare Krishna, Pushkala.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Dharma, in the form of a bull, asked Madam, are you not hale and hearty? Why are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal disease, or are you thinking of some relative who is away in a distant place? Purport. The people of the world in this age of Kali are always full of anxieties. Everyone is diseased with some kind of ailment. From the very faces of the people of this age, one can find out the index of the mind. Everyone feels the absence of his relative who is away from home. The particular symptom of the age of Kali is that no family is now blessed to live together. To earn a livelihood, the father lives at a place far away from the son, or the wife lives far away from the husband, and so on. There are sufferings from internal diseases, separation from those near and dear, and anxieties for maintaining the status quo. These are but some important factors which make the people of this age always unhappy. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Hare Krishna Sasyamani. You can-
Hare Krishna. Translation: I have lost my three legs and am now standing on one only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence, or are you in great anxiety because henceforth the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you? Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought? Purport: with the progress of the age of Kali, four things particularly, namely the duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, and moral or religious principles, will gradually diminish. Since dharma or the principles of religion would be lost in the proportion of 3 out of 4, the symbolic bull was standing on one leg only. When three-fourths of the population of the whole world becomes irreligious, the situation is converted into hell for the animals. In the age of Kali, godless civilizations will create so many so called religious societies in which the personality of Godhead will be directly or indirectly defied. And thus, faithless societies of men will make the world uninhabitable for the saner section of people. There are gradations of human beings in terms of proportionate faith in Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first class faithful men are the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, then the Kshatriyas, and then the Vaishyas, then the Shudras, then the Mlechas, the Yavanas, and at last the Chandalas. The degradation of the human instinct begins from the Mlechas and the Chandala state of life in the last word in human degradation. All the above terms mentioned in the Vedic literatures are never meant for any particular community or birth. They are different qualifications of human beings in general. There is no question of birthright or community. One can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts, and thus the son of a Vaishnava can become a Mlecha, or the son of a Chandala can become more than a Brahmana, all in terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Abhishek. Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna. The meat eaters are generally called mlechas, but all meat eaters are not mlechas. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions are not mlechas, but those who accept meat without restriction are called mlechas. Beef is forbidden in the scriptures, and the bulls and cows are offered special protection by followers of the Vedas. But in this age of Kali, people will exploit the body of the bull and cow as they like, and thus they will invite sufferings of various types. The people of this age will not perform any sacrifice. Mlecha population will care very little for performances of sacrifices. Although performance of sacrifice is essential for persons who are materially engaged in sense enjoyment, in the Bhagavad Gita 3.14 to 16, performance of sacrifices is strongly recommended.
You can
The living
continue.
being, oh, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you can continue.
The living beings are created by the creator Brahma. And just to maintain the created living being progressively towards a path back to Godhead, the system of performing sacrifice is also created by him. The system is that living beings live on the produce of grains and vegetables, and by eating such foodstuff, they get vital power of the body in the shape of blood and semen. And from blood and semen, one living being is able to create another living being. But the production of grains, grass, etc., becomes possible by rain. And this rain is made to shower properly by performance of recommended sacrifices. Such sacrifices are directed by the rites of the Vedas, namely Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva. The Manusmriti, it is recommended that by offerings of sacrifice on the altar of the fire, the sun god is pleased. When the sun god is pleased, he properly collects water from the sea, and thus sufficient clouds collect on the horizon and rains fall. After sufficient rains fall, there is sufficient production of grains for men and all animals, and thus there is energy in the living being for progressive activity. The Mlechas, however, make plans to install slaughterhouses for killing bulls and cows along with other animals, thinking that they will prosper by increasing the number of factories and live on animal food without caring for performance of sacrifices and production of gain. But they must know that even for the animals, they must produce grass and vegetables, otherwise, the animals cannot live. And to produce grass for the animals, they require sufficient rains. Therefore, they have to depend ultimately on the mercy of the demigods like the sun god Indra and Chandra, and such demigods must be satisfied by performances of sacrifice.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Sagar, you can read. Hare Krishna Sagar.
I don't have spectacles, so it's difficult to read.
Shall I continue with that?
I can continue.
Hare Krishna Jagannath, you can read.
Hare Krishna. This material world is a sort of prison house. As we have several times mentioned, the demigods are the servants of the Lord who see to the proper upkeep of the prison house. These demigods want to see that the real rebel living beings who want to survive faithfully are gradually turned towards the supreme power of Lord. Therefore, the system of offering sacrifice is recommended in the scriptures. The materialistic men want to work hard and enjoy for fruitive results of seen enjoyment. Thus, they are recommitting many types of sins at every step of life. Those, however, who are constantly engaged in the devotional services of the Lord are transcendental to all varieties of sin and virtue. The activities are free from the contamination of the three modes of material nature. For the devotees, there is no need for performance of the prescribed sacrifice because the very life of the devotee is a symbol of sacrifice. But persons who are engaged in fruitive activities for sense of enjoyment must perform the prescribed sacrifices because that is the only means to get free from the reaction of all sins committed by fruitive workers. Sacrifice is the means of counteracting such accumulated sins. The demigods are pleased when such sacrifices are performed, just as prison officers are satisfied when the prisoners are turned into obedient subjects. Lord Chaitanya, however, has recommended only one yajna or the sacrifice called the Sankirtana Yajna, the chanting of Hare Krishna in which everyone can take part. Thus, both devotees and fruitive workers can derive equal benefit from the performances of the Sankirtana Yajna. Hare Krishna.
Page 20. Hare Krishna Swapnamati. Hare Krishna Swapnamati. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, translation. Are you feeling Compunction.
Compunction.
Compunction for the unhappy women and children who are left forlorn by unscrupulous persons. Or are you unhappy because the goddess of learning is being handled by brahmanas addicted to acts against the principles of religion? Or are you sorry to see that the brahmanas have taken shelter of administrative families that do not respect Brahmanical culture? Purport. In the age of Kali, the women and the children, along with brahmanas and cows, will be grossly neglected and left unprotected. In this age, illicit connection with women will render many women and children uncared for. Circumstantially, the woman will try to become independent for the protection of men. And marriage will be performed as a matter of formal agreement between man and woman. In most cases, the children will not be taken care of properly. The Brahmanas are traditionally intelligent men, and thus they will be able to pick up modern education to the topmost rank. But as far as moral and religious principles are concerned, they shall be the most fallen. Education and bad character go ill together. But such things will run parallel. The administrative heads as a class will condemn the tenets of Vedic wisdom and will prefer to conduct a so-called secular state, and the so-called educated brahmanas will be purchased by such scrupulous administrators. Even a philosopher and a writer of many books on religious principles may also accept all exalted posts in a government which denies all the moral codes of the Shastras. The Brahmanas are specifically restricted from accepting such service. But in age, they will not only accept service, but they will do so even if it is the meanest quality. These are some of the symptoms of Kali age which are harmful to the general welfare of the human society. Hare
Krishna, Adita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation. The so-called administrators are now bewildered by the influence of this age of Kali, and thus they have put all state affairs into disorder. Are you now lamenting this disorder? Now the general populace does not follow the rules and regulations for eating, sleeping, drinking, mating, etc. And they are inclined to perform such anywhere and everywhere. Are you unhappy because of this? Purport. There are some necessities of life on a par with those of the lower animals, and they are eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. These bodily demands are for both human beings and the animals. But the human beings has to fulfill such desires, not like animals, but like a human being. A dog can mate with a bitch before the public eyes without hesitation. But if a human being does so, the act will be considered a public nuisance and the person will be criminally prosecuted. Therefore, for the human being, there are some rules and regulations, even for fulfilling common demands. The human society avoids such rules and regulations when it is bewildered by the influence of the age of Kali. In this age, people are indulging in such necessities of life without following the rules and regulations. And this deterioration of social and moral rules is certainly lamentable because of the harmful effects of such beastly behavior. In this age, the fathers and the guardians are not happy with the behavior of their wards. They should know that so many innocent children are victims of bad association avoided by the influence of this age of Kali. We know from Srimad Bhagavatam that Ajamila, an innocent son of a Brahmana, was walking down a road and saw a Sudra pair sexually embracing. This attracted the boy, and later on, the boy became a victim of all debaucheries. For a pure Brahmana, he fell down to the position of a wretched urchin, and it was all due to bad association. There was but one victim like Ajamila in those days, But in this age of Kali, the poor innocent students are daily victims of cinemas, which attract men only for sex indulgence. The so-called administrators are all untrained in the affairs of a Kshatriya. The Kshatriyas are meant for administration and the Brahmanas are meant for knowledge and guidance. The word Kshetra Bandhu refers to the so-called administrators or persons promoted to the post of administrator without proper training by the culture and tradition. Nowadays, they are promoted to such exalted posts by the votes of the people who are themselves fallen in the rules and regulations of life. How can such people select a proper man when they are themselves fallen in the standard of life? Therefore, by the influence of the age of Kali, everywhere, politically, socially, or religiously, everything is topsy turvy, and therefore, for the sane man, it is all regrettable. Hare Krishna.
Next 23. Hare Krishna Sagar.
Translation. O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, incarnated himself as Lord Sri Krishna just to unload your heavy burden. All his activities are here transcendental and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of his presence. You are probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence. Purpose. The activities of Lord include liberation, but they are more relishable than the pleasure derived from nirvana or liberation. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word used here is nirvana vilambitani, which minimizes the value of liberation. To attain nirvana, liberation, one has to undergo a severe type of tapasya, austerity. But the Lord is so merciful that he incarnates to diminish the burden of the earth. Simply by remembering such activities, one can defy the pleasure derived from nirvana and reach the transcendental abode of Lord to associate with him, eternally engaged in his blissful long service. Hare Krishna.
Next 24. Hare Krishna Pushkala. Hare Krishna Pushkala. Please continue.
Hare Krishna. Mother, you are the reservoir of all riches. Please inform me of the root cause of your tribulations by which you have been reduced to such a weak state. I think that the powerful influence of time, which conquers the most powerful, might have forcibly taken away all your fortune, which was adored even by the demigods. Purport. By the grace of the Lord, each and every planet is created fully equipped. So not only is the earth fully equipped with all the riches for the maintenance of its inhabitants, but also when the Lord descends to the earth, the whole earth becomes so enriched with all kinds of opulences that even the denizens of heaven worship it with all affection. But by the will of the Lord, the whole earth can at once be changed. He can do and undo a thing by his sweet will. Therefore, no one should consider himself to be self sufficient or independent of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Next 25. Hare Krishna Sarsiyaman.
Hare Krishna. Translation. The earthly deity in the form of a cow thus replied to the personality of religious principles in the form of a bull. O Dharma, whatever you have inquired from me shall be known to you. I shall try to reply to all those questions. Once you two were maintained by your four legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord. Purport. The principle of religion are laid down by the Lord himself, and the executor of such laws is Dharmaraja or Yamaraja. Such principles work fully in the age of Satya Yuga. In the Treta Yuga, they are reduced by a fraction of 1/4. In the Dwapara Yuga, they are reduced to 1/2. And in the Kali Yuga, they are reduced to 1/4, gradually diminishing to the 0 point. And then devastation takes place. Happiness in the world depends proportionately on the maintenance of the religious principles, individually or collectively. The best part of valor is to maintain the principles despite all kinds of odds. Thus, one can be happy during the span of life and ultimately return to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
It's 26 to 30. Hare Krishna Vishnu. Can read the first paragraph. Translation. Hare Krishna Vishnu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Translation. In him reside truthfulness, cleanliness, intolerance of another's unhappiness, the power to control anger, self-satisfaction, straightforwardness, steadiness of mind, control of the sense organs, responsibility, equality, tolerance, equanimity, faithfulness, knowledge, absence of sense enjoyment, leadership, chivalry, influence, the power to make everything possible, a discharge of proper duty, complete independence, dexterity, fullness of all beauty, serenity, kind-heartedness, ingenuity, gentility, magnanimity, determination, perfection in all knowledge, proper execution, possession of all objects of enjoyment, joyfulness, immovability, fidelity, fame, worship, pridelessness, being as the personality of Godhead, eternity, and many other transcendental qualities which are eternally present and never to be separated from Him. That personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all goodness and beauty, Lord Sri Krishna, has now closed his transcendental pastimes on the face of the earth. In his absence, the age of Kali has spread its influence everywhere. So I am sorry to see this condition of existence. Purport. Even if it were possible to count the atoms after smashing the earth into powder, still it would not be possible to estimate the unfathomable transcendental qualities of the Lord. It is said that Lord Anantadeva has tried to expound the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord with his numberless tongues, and that for numberless years together it has been impossible to estimate the qualities of the Lord. The above statement of the qualities of the Lord is just to estimate his qualities as far as human being is able to see him. But even if it is so, the above qualities can be divided into many subheadings. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, that third quality, intolerance of another's unhappiness, can be subdivided into 1. Protection of the surrendered souls, and 2. Well wishes for the devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord states that He wants every soul to surrender unto Him only, and He assures everyone that if one does so, He will give protection from the reactions of all sin. Unsurrendered souls are not devotees of the Lord, and thus there is no particular protection for everyone in general. For the devotees, he has all good wishes, and for those who are actually engaged in loving transcendental service of the Lord, he gives particular attention. He gives direction to such pure devotees to help them discharge their responsibilities on the path to Godhead. By equality, number 10, the Lord is equally kind to everyone as the sun is equal in distributing its rays over everyone. Yet, there are many who are unable to take advantage of the sun's rays. Similarly, the Lord says that surrendering unto Him is the guarantee for all protection from Him. But unfortunate persons are unable to accept this proposition, and therefore they suffer from all material miseries. So, even though the Lord is equally well wishing to everyone, the unfortunate living being, due to bad association only, is unable to accept his instructions in toto. And for this, the Lord is never to be blamed. He is called the well wisher for the devotees only. He appears to be partial to his devotees, but actually, the matter rests on the living being to accept or reject equal treatment by the Lord. Hare Krishna.
The Lord never deviates from his word of honor. When he gives assurance for protection, the promise is executed in all circumstances. It is a duty of the pure devotee to be fixed in the discharge of the duty entrusted to him by the Lord or the Lord's bona fide representative, the spiritual master. The rest is carried out by the Lord without effort. The responsibility of the Lord is also unique. The Lord has no responsibility because all his work is done by his different appointed energies. But still, he accepts voluntarily responsibilities in displaying different roles in his transcendental person. As a boy, he was playing the part of a cowboy. As a son of Nanda Maharaj, he discharged responsibility perfectly. Similarly, when he was playing the part of a Kshatriya as a son of Maharaj Vasudeva, he displayed all the skill of martially spirited Kshatriya. In almost all cases, the Kshatriya's king has to secure a wife by fighting or kidnapping. This sort of behavior for Kshatriya is praiseworthy in the sense that Kshatriya must show his power of chivalry to his would-be wife so that a daughter of Kshatriya can see the valor of her would-be husband. Even the personality of goddess Sri Rama displayed such a spirit of chivalry during his marriage. He broke the strongest bow called Haradhanur and achieved the hand of Sita Devi, the mother of all opulence. The Kshatriya spirit is displayed during the marriage festivals, and there is nothing wrong in such fighting. Lord Sri Krishna discharged such responsibility fully because although he had more than 16,000 wives, in each and every case, he fought like a chivalrous Kshatriya and thus secured a wife. To fight 16,000 times to secure 16,000 wives is certainly possible only for Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, he displayed full responsibility in every action of his different pastimes. Hare Krishna Jagannath, you can read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna. The 14 quality knowledge can be further extended into 5 subheadings, namely intelligence, gratefulness, power of understanding the circumstantial environmental of place, objective and time, perfect knowledge of everything, and knowledge of the self. Only fools are ungrateful to their benefactors. The Lord, however, does not require benefit from anyone besides himself because he is full of himself. Still, he feels benefited by the unalloyed services of his devotees. The Lord feels grateful to his devotees for such unsophisticated, unconditional service and tries to reciprocate it by rendering service. Although the devotees has also has no such desire in his heart, that the transcendental service of the Lord is itself is a transcendental benefit for the devotees, and therefore the devotees has nothing to expect from the Lord. On the acceptance of the Vedic apprehension, sarvam kalav idam brahma, we can understand that the Lord by the omnipresent race of his effulgence called Brahma Jyoti is all pervading inside or outside of the everything like omnipresent material sky, and thus he is also omniscient. As far as the beauty
Hare Krishna,
of the Lord,
we'll go with another devotee.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Swapna Madhavi, you can read the highlighted text. Hare Krishna Swapna Madhavi, are you there?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
You can read
As
the
far as Hare Krishna, am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you are audible. You can read the highlighted text.
Yeah. As far as the beauty of the Lord is concerned, he has some special features that distinguish him from all other living beings. And over and above that, he has some special attractive, beautiful features by which he attracts the mind of even Radharani, the supermost beautiful creation of the Lord. He is known, therefore, as Madana Mohana, or one who attracts the mind of even Cupid. Sri Rajiva Goswami Prabhu has scrutinizingly analyzed other transcendental qualities of the Lord and affirms that Lord Sri Krishna is the absolute supreme personality of Godhead. Parabrahman. He is omnipotent by his inconceivable energies, and therefore he is the Yogeshwara or the supreme master of all mystic powers. Being the Yogeshwara, his eternal form is spiritual, a combination of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The non-devotee class cannot understand the dynamic nature of his knowledge because they are satisfied to reach to his eternal form of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, you can read the rest.
Hare Krishna. All great souls aspire to be equal in knowledge with him. This means that all other knowledge is ever insufficient, flexible, and measurable, whereas the knowledge of the Lord is ever fixed and unfathomable. Srila Sutta Goswami affirms in the Bhagavatam that although he was observed by the citizens of the Dwaraka every day, they were ever increasingly anxious to see him again and again. The living beings can appreciate the qualities of the Lord as the ultimate goal, but they cannot attain the status quo of such equality. This material world is a product of the Mahat Tattva, which is a state of the Lord's dreaming condition. In his Yoga Nidra, mystics slumber in the causal ocean, and yet the whole creation appears to be a factual presentation of his creation. This means that the Lord's dreaming conditions are also factual manifestations. He can therefore bring everything under his transcendental control, and thus, whenever and wherever he does appear, he does so in his fullness.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So thank you everyone for joining today's session. It's a small announcement over here. So on the instruction of my Shiksha Guru, His Grace Dhiran Prabhu, on every Thursday, in the next 8 Thursdays, I will be joining the Vaishnava Sadachar course on Thursdays at the same time, 7:30 to 8:30. So I cannot be doing the session. Instead of that, we will have another session on Wednesday or Friday, whichever is comfortable. Is Wednesday okay or Friday is okay? Hare Krishna. Okay. Which one is okay for you?
Friday, Prabhuji.
Friday is better.
Friday. Okay. So we'll be for the next eight weeks. That's all. After that, we can revert back to Thursday again. For the next 8 sessions, we'll be having on Friday. Okay, thank you everyone. Pancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhivya Vacha Pantana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sant Koti Vaishnavrundi ki jai. Transcendental Book Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll meet again on Friday at the same time, 7:00. Thank you, sir.